What's up, everybody? This is John with iRacing with part 2 of our videos series about how to paint your iRacing car. For this video, we're going to jump into getting the scheme on your car, how to paint that scheme, just some other things that we can do with it. This one might be a little bit shorter, but I kind of want to separate this from putting in our sponsors and our numbers and everything like that. So let's just jump into it. So we're back here at our Photoshop file that we had earlier. We've already went over what all this stuff does. We can pretty much just leave all that off now. Doesn't really matter. And we're going to open up this car patterns part and turn it on. Thing I didn't mention in the last video, I'm sure a lot of people know this. It's probably not worth saying, but if you're looking at the layers, these are layers on your Photoshop file. So if you're looking at this right here, you have to imagine you're a bird looking straight down onto your Photoshop file. So this is the top layer. If I take this off, you'll see the next layer underneath it, which is this one. If I take this one off, you see the next layer underneath it, right? But I can't take this one off because this layer, if I take this off, you won't be able to see car pattern 4 because 2 is covering it up. So that's pretty easy, but sometimes worth going over. So we'll just turn that on. Let's jump over to our iRacing side. This isn't going to reflect the schemes anymore because I do have it saved like we did in our last video, so it's just this base blue color for now. But what you want to do is, if we're going to use our iRacing schemes, we want to find an iRacing scheme that we like the best. Which for this one, I think the best one is probably this one for what Baker wants to do. Actually, for this one, we're going to use this one right here, this number 9. I like this one the best, so you don't have to select it. I just did it as a marker. Let's jump back over to Photoshop. And what we're going to do now is find that same pattern. Sometimes these numbers right here do not completely line up with what iRacing says it should be. So we're just going to get pretty close because I know it's going to be either 8, 9, or 10, or somewhere around there. And looking back, it's going to be number 8 is what we're looking for right here. So this is the same pattern that we were looking at over here, right here. So I'll leave the eyeball on top of this one on, and then we will turn all the rest of them off. You can feel free to delete these if you want to at this point. I don't really delete them just because I can just collapse the whole folder and it doesn't bother me. Also, I just like to have them around just in case there's a change later on in the design process. So once we have our car pattern selected and we have the eyeball on top of our car pattern, we can collapse that, click on base, and we're going to create 3 new layers. Now, if you go up to this top little part right here, you should have a layer that says, or a panel that says channels. Channels is going to show RGB, red, green, blue. This approach, everything that's red, everything you see is green, everything you see is blue. What we want to do is name our layers the same thing as this right here, just for the time being, red, green, blue. So double click, red, green, blue. And once you're hitting these, you can hit tab. If it's visible, you can hit tab when you're renaming it and it will go to the next one, which makes life pretty simple. So go back to channels now. We're going to select our red layer only, and then hit this little circle down here that's like ants marching on a farm. That's going to select everything that's red in our Photoshop file here. Go back to layers, click on red again. Sometimes if you already have red up, it won't show. Just click off and then back to red. And then we're going to select our paint bucket and just paint. Make sure this paint bucket is black and paint everything that's in red. Just click one time on red and it's going to paint everything that's red black in here. And then to get rid of these little selection tools here, hit Control D. That should get rid of it. We'll do the same thing for green and blue. So select green, hit our little circle, back to layers. And this is what I was talking about earlier. If I don't have something selected as before, like we were on red, it's just going to show up as black and white. But once I select green here, it'll give us that color. That's what we need to do to paint it. So green, since we're on green, paint bucket, make sure it's black, paint everything that's green, Control D. And last time for blue, Control D. And those are our 3 layers. Now we can take these car patterns and turn it off. And that doesn't look great at all, but it will here in a second. So Baker has told me that the colors that he wants for this car are white, green, and black. So I think our main layer, which is this top one, needs to be white. So what we're going to do is double click on this, and it's going to open up a panel, and we're going to hit color overlay. If we want to change this to any color you want to, just move this around. Doesn't really matter what to, whatever you feel like. But for this one, we're just going to do white. Okay. Then I'm going to rename this white. Same thing for this next layer. I think this should probably be the green layer. We already have it named green, so that works out perfectly. Same thing, double click, color overlay. We're going to find a nice bright green. All right. And for the blue layer, let's make this black. Double click, color overlay, black. Okay. And we'll change this to black. All right. Now we can use our hotkeys that we set up earlier, Shift F2, and look at the changes that's happened over here in iRacing. So that's pretty cool, but there's a lot of green there, and I'm not really a huge fan of that. So I might change this green and black layers to switch them out. And I like that a lot better. So yeah, we'll go with that one instead. Cool. Let's jump back over to Photoshop. I'm going to change these titles to black. Change this one to green so we don't get confused later on. All right, and then we can turn off our base paint if we want to. We don't really need that there. I mean, you can have it on. It doesn't really matter. But all right. The next thing, if we want to change our pit board color while we're sitting here, you have this lock button. Just double click this lock button. We'll turn it off. I guess you only click it once. And then double click on pit board, color overlay. I'm going to make this one black. Okay. If I turn it on, you'll see it black. So that's what color pit board he's going to have for this car. And also while we're here, we're also going to change our pit box colors as well. This one we do not add a color overlay to. Just turn it on, make sure you have it selected. We're going to zoom into these tiny little boxes down here. And for the base of his pit box, it's going to be black. And then for the awning on top of it, I want that same green color. If you open up this paint part here, and when this color picker comes up, if you just go out to your file, you can select that same color green. And that's going to make it the same color green over here, and then just paint it, which looks pretty similar to what it was before, but still. And the last thing that I'm going to show you guys for this video is the color change logos, because I do not like this green here. So we'll go turn on our color change logos. I also don't like that yellow there. I want all of these to be black, to be honest. So what we're going to do is turn the color change logo on, make a color overlay, and just turn all these black. And then Shift F2 to save all our changes. Let's take a look over in iRacing. And that's going to look pretty good for starters. Yeah, I like that a lot. All right, that is pretty much it for the second part of this video series about how we're going to design our race car. Our next one, we're going to actually start putting in numbers. We're going to put in our sponsors and everything like that. I'll show you how to cut out sponsors that you want. But yeah, I'll see you guys in part 3.